You're listening to the Social Selling Simplified podcast. Stick around if you too are obsessed with learning things that actually work and believe that success leaves clues. We're all about identifying results-producing roadmaps and getting super clear on how to scale and grow your online business. From part-timer to president, social selling expert Ashley Shaw will help you connect the dots and take the guesswork out of what works to grow a social selling empire. It's time to hear from social selling legends, listen in on truthful conversations, and learn the best tips and tricks to reduce the marketing overwhelm so you can build the social selling business of your dreams. If you're ready to go all in, no holding back, and build the business you've always wanted, you're in the right place. Here's your host, educator, social selling guru, and fitness industry OG, Ashley Shaw.
Welcome to Social Selling Simplified. I'm your host, Ashley Shaw, and we're going to be getting into, for those who hate selling shit, that's what this episode is going to be all about. And it's actually perfect timing because I just got off a call with one of my really good friends, Bria Gadd, and she is not only a coach in the health and wellness space, but Bria and I have actually worked together for probably the last 5 years on various things and as friends, and also as I've done some leadership events for her teams, and I've learned a ton from her. And so we've always had this great connection and dialogue, around talking about development, what's working on social, and kind of reframing things in your mind in a bit of a different way. Sometimes we have, for me anyway, I have this digestion process where when I teach something or when I talk through something, there's new aha moments and new kind of neurons that start to fire. And so one of those things that came up that Bria and I have been talking about is the fact that social media is so much more saturated than it's ever been. And, if you go back 8 or 10 years, you could post something and it would really stand out and you'd get a ton of engagement, and it was just a totally different playing field than things are now. There's so many more people, not only on social media, but obviously, and maybe this isn't obvious to everyone, but just with somebody that spends money on advertising, the goal of any social media platform is to bring in ad dollars. So what that means is that you've got to put out really, really, really good content. And sometimes even that's not enough for people to see what you're posting. The easiest way is obviously to pay to play. When you put money and ad spend behind a post or a reel or a video or whatever it may be, that is the surefire way to get people to see it without trying to figure out, what hashtags do I have to use and how do I get this to go viral, and always be working on that. I just feel going that route is just, I don't know. To me, it's not a good use of time. That's not really, when I know I can pay, you can even pay $5 a day to boost a post and get more people to see it. It's just not worth all those hours. Is your time worth that $5 a day to try to hack it out and figure it out? Probably not, right? With that in mind, the one thing that we got talking about is this idea that there are other things that you can do besides just talking about what you sell in your posts. And unfortunately, a lot of us get trapped in that thinking that okay, social media is to sell. And it's probably no wonder that if you're somebody that already doesn't really know how to sell, what you've seen is always icky, you're going to hate it to begin with, right? And the kind of the interesting thing is when you start to understand the customer value journey, you can start to see there are actually different variables that you can play with to get more people to eventually buy from you. So there's kind of 3 steps at the beginning of the customer value journey that we talk about. The first one is awareness. So this is how many people are actually becoming aware of you. And this is where Facebook ads can be really helpful, of course, is getting in front of new eyeballs. Some coaches and reps or business owners are really successful in the beginning because no one has seen their offering or their product or whatever. But then all of a sudden it starts to fall on deaf ears because Now you've gone through your warm audience and there's no one new seeing what you have to offer. The next stage after somebody becomes aware of you is, of course, they engage with you. That could be, liking your post, leaving a comment, that sort of thing. And then you move them to subscribe to get them on an email list. And there are various steps after that. I want to focus on for a sec is awareness, because if you don't have this tied down and locked up tight, you're always going to feel like you're selling, because you're saturating the pool of people that, it's like, think of it as an aquarium with only a certain amount of water, and there's only a certain amount of fish in there. And you're just constantly trying to say the same thing over and over and over again in different ways. Whereas when you open up the pool, meaning you get into a bigger pond, there's more fish, you're not going to be repeating the same message to the same people over and over and over again. So this is where the awareness phase is super duper important. I want to talk about some of the ways that you can increase awareness around what you have to offer. This is the top of your funnel. This is where you actually get new eyeballs. Here are the different ways that you can do that. The first idea is that you can start a podcast. So a podcast, the cool thing about a podcast is that I am literally actually recording this podcast on my phone under the voice recording app. I have used many different microphones and Zoom and all these different, not that Zoom's fancy, but fancy things. And I honestly find that my team prefers when I record on my phone. The quality is really good, and I have an iPhone 13 or whatever. Maybe the mic is just really good on this one, but I find that super helpful and super easy because I can create content at no matter where I am, what I'm doing. So with a podcast, what you're doing, and you don't have to there's no rules for once a week, once a month or whatever. I do think being consistent is great though. I think it is important that once you start to build an audience, you definitely want them to be able to rely on the content that you're putting out. This is episode 137. I've been recording now for, over 2 years, I guess now, almost more than that. And it just becomes, I really like podcasting for the fact that I can, as I mentioned, do it anywhere. I can talk about different things that I'm hearing about. And for our team, it's really after I record the audio component, they go through and they will edit it and brush it up a bit, and then it gets posted. So really there are some basic tech steps that are involved, but there's tons of people that, if you want to hire out podcast editing, there's lots of great VAs out there that would do that. And I don't even know if it's necessary that you have to edit it or whatnot. I think when you're first getting started, it's just about being consistent. You may not need to even do all those steps. And it's really cool because I think what part of it for me that it really helps with is that more people can find me because of how I've titled my podcast, Social Selling Simplified. And then what I also do is I end up putting the episode, it goes on my website, and then we do some show notes. So that's more advanced. You don't have to do show notes, but it's just a little summary of what I'm going to be, what I've talked about and what are the key things if someone is more of a, kinesthetic or visual learner. And then that helps, when someone's searching something with SEO, that's going to be helpful in having those things on the website. Hey, coach, I finally have something that I've been dreaming of providing for you. I know that you definitely didn't start this business because you really felt like pestering your friends and family and getting ghosted by everyone. Chasing people down or having to follow up with them is definitely hard work, and it can feel so awkward and uncomfortable for everyone involved. But your upline probably told you that this is what successful people do, and they didn't mention to you that unless you're this superstar salesperson right off the bat, you're going to struggle forever if you keep doing it that old school way. 99% of coaches quit because they suddenly declare themselves this expert online and then go back and ask everyone who knew them to just start buying from them when they just started working out last week. And this problem applies to all network marketers, not just coaches. But the 1% that actually succeed have made it because they've caught on to a different system that's been proven to work. And it's just something that nobody really talks about. It's all about taking some simple steps to position yourself as an influencer first, So soon, instead of asking people to talk to you, you'll attract ideal customers who are already excited to learn from you and buy from you. They'll know exactly what you're about and how you can help them. Go to ashleyshaw.ca/FYourUpline to learn more and see exactly what I'm talking about. You don't have to hunt people down and make them talk to you in order to get your bills paid for the rest of your life. Check out my short book called F What Your Upline Said and get an entirely different approach that will feel much more organic and authentic. That's ashleyshaw.ca/FYourUpline. I'm so excited for you to start implementing these 4 simple changes in your business and see how it absolutely transforms how you feel about your business and the results that you're able to get. If we go back for a second, talk about, okay, I want to start a podcast. I'm a very beginner. I would just say, get out your phone and start recording some different episodes. Doesn't have to be fancy. And then it's quite easy to upload it to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatnot. And there you go. You have a podcast. Like, no big deal. And it's a great way for people to, I think, binge you and learn more about your thoughts. And I think a podcast is sort of intimate in the sense, it almost reminds me a little bit of Insta stories, because someone sort of does have to like come across you, but then they can kind of like see behind the scenes. They can listen to all your episodes. And, you know, it's just a really great way for you to build relationships. People record it once and then people can go back and listen to it, and it can be listened to over and over and over again. So it's like a big leverage activity. People can build relationships with you. They learn to trust you, and it becomes a good authority piece. And one of the things Bria said to me is like, it's just so great because it's not like you have to feel like you're selling shit all the time. And that really just resonated with me, is that you can actually lead people back to your podcast episode instead of being like, hey, go buy my shit. It's like, here is an episode I think would be really helpful for you. And that's not to say you're not layering things into your podcast. You know, there might be an outro where you pitch a freebie you have, or you pitch something that can be really helpful in driving people to where you want to drive them. But I do find that you need something else other than just posting on social media. Like, it's not enough to just post on social media and hope that that's going to solve all your revenue goals and things like that. We need to be able to provide more value for people than just that. And that can, also the other thing you can have is a lead magnet, which I think is also a, really solid way to build trust and rapport with people. It's just a bit of a different piece, because it is, if you just have a lead magnet, it's like, how are you getting it in front of people? And, the question or the answer to that would be, usually you would have like an ad or something that is built into your funnel in the beginning where people find you or whatever. So a lead magnet is super great, and you can point people to it and talk about it on social media, but you will eventually get to a point that you're going to want to get it in front of more eyeballs. That's where a great Facebook ad can, when I say Facebook ad, I mean Instagram too. It can really serve as a good jumping off point for people to get a copy of it and then getting to know you through your email series and things like that. So that's another solid way, is to have a really great lead magnet. Now, a lead magnet can be many things. It doesn't just have to be a PDF of a 14-day meal plan, let's say. It can be an audio training, which is essentially a podcast episode or whatever, right? Like, or a longer one, like you can determine how you do that. It could be a video training, it could be a Facebook group, like accountability group or something that you're running for the next 7 days or whatever. Those are a little bit more tricky if they do have a timeline, but those are all different ways that you can use a Facebook ad on the front end and drive people in and get more awareness around who you are and what you do. Now, the other more traditional way that you've probably heard before is to have a blog. Now, definitely a blog can be, it can be really good. I think if you have a website, then you have a spot to be able to put your posts and things like that. I just think that a podcast is like an auditory blog in a way, right? I know myself personally, I prefer to listen to podcasts. That's normally where I'll go first if I'm searching for information, because I like to, be able to go for a walk and listen to some development versus, I think the blog world is a little bit different in the sense that if people have a burning problem, they will usually go to Google and try to solve that. That's why when you look at the cost of advertising, it's actually more expensive for Google because the purchase intent, like people want to solve that problem. They will go there to try to solve that problem. So blogs can be good in that way because if people are searching for something, then you can definitely, be on their radar if you're, depending on where your post or your blog post is ranking with those search terms. So there are a couple other things you have to keep into consideration with a blog, like the naming conventions of your blogs and things like that, like your blog posts, because you want to be naming things what people are searching for so that your material becomes relevant and it comes up in those searches and things like that. I did a blog maybe like 5 years ago or so, and I was just writing to write, like just because I like to write. And I don't know that it was like, it's sort of a long-term play, right? I don't know that it's like getting out to a bunch of people who don't know you and all of a sudden you're going to have a flood of traffic. I don't think so. I think that is more a long-term play. And if you, I think the asset is an email list that you can then send people a link to your blog post or to your podcast episode. Like the thing that needs to come at the top of that is driving people to your email list. And then you have that constant pulse and communication with them. Some of the other ways would be you could also do a YouTube channel. Now, YouTube is the second largest search engine after Google. So it's sort of a similar learning curve in the sense of what are you titling things and are people searching that? Because as soon as you create a YouTube video, it's not that people are just, you're going to have a whole bunch, like millions and millions of views because you created a YouTube video. It's more so, are you answering the questions that people are actually asking? And again, if you have an email list and you can send out links to those videos that you have been creating and producing. So I think that's a solid way to go about it as well. Now, some people might use Pinterest. Again, Pinterest is sort of that long-term game. For me, I've always thought about what's the least amount of effort and the fastest results. And where I've always found that to be most helpful to get the most eyeballs is to use an ad platform like Facebook or Instagram to get those eyeballs there. But I think that if you are somebody that's, hates feeling awkward, hates cold messaging people and DMing people, it is because it is awkward. There's no doubt about that. Or you hate feeling like you're always pitching something. What you have to do is turn that compass a bit, and you have to start to focus on, instead of, asking yourself the question how can I sell more of this? How can you solve more problems? And how can you give more value to your audience? Because the more that you're giving value to your audience, the more that they're going to look to you for solutions. And they're actually going to, tell you more about what they need and how you can help them. And all those questions get answered authentically when you start showing up with the intention of providing solutions and providing value to your audience. So if you hate selling shit, this is definitely the way to go, and to start thinking about what can I do to give back to my audience so that they feel that, I'm there to help, I'm there to serve them. So I really hope today's episode was helpful for you and that you learned a lot and took lots of notes, and you're feeling super inspired to go out there and serve the people that love you. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next time on Social Selling Simplified.
Thanks for taking the time to level up today. If you're ready to commit to personal and professional growth, move forward, make money, and grow your health and fitness business, head to my free community on Facebook, Business Bootcamp for Fitness Coaches, so I can support you every step along the way. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you right back here next week on Social Selling Simplified.